Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session connecting data incubators, leveraging synergies and sharing experiences, which is part of the track on market uptake. Yesterday, we have two interesting sessions about market uptake and how to foster the adoption of technology, digital technologies, but more specifically data and AI by SMEs, startups, and society in general. And today we thought it was a good idea to bring together all the data incubators that had been funded and also are running under the Big Data Value PPP. Because data incubators, we think that there are key instruments to foster this data-driven innovation, to bring together different actors in the value chain, and also to leverage the results of other projects and experiences. So this session is organized by the BDBE project, the Big Data Value Ecosystem Project, which is the coordination and support action of the Big Data Value PPP. So before moving forward, I would like to thanks again to all our sponsors for their support and their collaboration to the event. Without their help, this event would have not been possible. So let me just, my name is Daniel Alonso, and I am project manager at ITI, a research and technology center in Valencia, in Spain. I am also involved in BDBE. I am also the coordinator of the project UHAS for Data. And I am really happy to present this relevant list of keynotes and speakers today. First, we have the European Commission represented by Kim Rossi, which is the head of sector in the unit of data policy. And then we have five representatives, coordinators, I would say, of the incubators, data incubators under the Big Data Value PPP. We have Elena Simper from King's College London, who is the coordinator of Data Pitch, which was the first incubator of the PPP, and she's also involved in UHAS for Data. We also have Diego, which is professor at Deusto and also the coordinator of European Data Incubator. Juan, who is a affairs manager in SIA, DIH in France, but also coordinator of the REACH project. Maria, who is project manager in Zavala, and she's involved in the project Data Market Services, the accelerator of the PPP. And last but not least, Alessandra from Leibniz, who is the coordinator of the Media Futures, the incubator focused on the media sector. So let me just say a few words about the session, the Big Data Value PPP and the project. So the Big Data Value PPP, the public-private partnership, which is composed of the private part, the BDBA, and also the public, the European Commission, has funded or is still funding more than 50 projects to foster data-driven innovation in Europe. And among this portfolio of projects, there are a variety of them. Some of them are focused on research, innovation, but also are more focused on lighthouse and piloting. But also we have the incubators, and this is what we want to highlight in this session, the data incubators, because again, we think that they are a key instrument to foster data-driven innovation. One of the virtues of this project is that, as I mentioned before, they bring together many actors in the value chain. They bring together data owners, technology providers, startups, SMEs, and all other actors, but also end users proposing challenges and also experiments. They have also some aspects in common. All of them are organizing open calls to attract actors to use the services of the incubators by the mechanism of financial support to third parties. They also accompany the companies in their journey in the experimentation. So again, we will want to hear from them this aspect they have in common, but also the differences between them. So this is the list of the incubators under the Big Value PPP. The story started in 2017 with Data Pitch, which also finished last year. Now we have running EDI, who started in 2018 and will finish mid-2021. And last year we had the pleasure to have a Data Market Service Accelerator also in the portfolio. And we come to the last generation of incubators, which are REACH, Media Futures, and also to some extent the project UHAS for Data. So the objectives of this session, as I mentioned before, is to bring all these actors together, all these incubators, let's try to find similarities, complementarities, synergies, and to identify ways of how we can collaborate or they can collaborate in the future, also facing the new challenges that we got ahead of us. And also the idea is for the most experienced incubators, as for instance, DataPitch and EDI, because DataPitch already finished, the EDI is finishing next year, so they are in the last stage. Also to share views and provide also tips for success and also advices to the new ones. Okay, and of course for the more recent ones, just try to identify what barriers they are facing and also what challenges have to be overcome. And also from my perspective, since I am the coordinator of Huas for Data, and also we have Elena here today, let's see we are able also to identify the value proposition that we from Huas for Data could propose to this project, and also those projects could provide to us, to the whole ecosystem. So just a few aspects about the session, how it is organized. Well, we will start with the initial statement of each of the speaker. Okay, and then just to present for them to set up the scene, to provide context about their initiatives and also their vision of the session. And then we will move to the panel discussion. Okay, I have prepared some questions from my side. And also, if time allows, we will try to pick up some of the questions from the Google Q&A chat. In any case, probably be sure that if we don't answer your question during the session, we will just try to address them offline, okay? Because we are planning to prepare a report of the session that we will upload after the event in the web pages of the BDVA and also of the PPP and of the event. So now, with no more preamble from my side, I just give the floor to Kimmo Rossi from the European Commission. Again, he is the head of sector of the data policy unit. So now, Kimmo, thanks for participating in the session. We really appreciate that, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniel. Good morning to everybody, and my sincere thanks to the organizers. You have managed to make this event work great online. So I've been studying the sessions, following them, and reading the backgrounds yesterday and the day before, and enjoyed very much the session. For one thing, there was already a sort of appetizer session for this one yesterday. It was organized by EU Hubs for Data, who is also the organizer of this session. And I just recap a few points there, especially if some of you did not follow that session. So first of all, my colleague Maria Haidu introduced the concept of digital innovation hubs for data. It's a new concept. She also introduced the concept of a federation or hub of hubs that this EU Hubs for Data is supposed to fulfill and to put into practice. Then yesterday, very important, we learned about what are the necessary features, characteristics of incubators, and especially if we want to turn them into digital innovation hubs, is the leverage effect, that the mobilization, multiplication. And so we heard from Elena Simperl yesterday how she managed to do that in the Data Pitch project, and she also headed the ODINE project before that. So I'm glad that she is here today as well to tell us how she did it and how we can adopt that skill to the new projects. We also learned yesterday from David Bissett from EU Robotics about the business viability, the importance of having a sound business model, because the money that we put as a funding agency to this system of incubators is not sufficient. It will come to an end at year 3 or 4, and then the incubator concept must live on. especially if it's a successful and popular concept, it has more reasons to live on, and it can do that by reaching economic sustainability, by having a sound and solid business model. We learned yesterday also about Gaia X that it relies actually on a concept of national and regional hubs, very similar to the hubs that we are relying on in this network of incubators. So why are we supporting these digital innovation hubs, and what does it mean to transform from incubator concept to digital innovation hubs? The overall goal is to achieve a digital transformation. This is nothing new. We are trying to achieve this goal in many different ways, and one way is to have large companies initiate a digital transformation in a given industry sectors, the so-called lighthouse projects. But to really achieve an impact and result, we have to reach out to the millions of companies in Europe, not only to the ones who participate in our project, not only to the handful of SMEs that are in each of the projects, and maybe the hundreds of SMEs that we reach out through our project and our incubators. So there are about 30 million companies in Europe, and vast majority of them are SMEs. So we cannot reach them if we just continue multiplying, adding yet another 50 or 100 to our incubators. We have to reach exponential growth. And so this is behind the idea of creating a network of networks or an incubator of incubators. So instead of just going out there and helping companies, we should actually help the companies to help themselves and others. And if we manage to replicate this model, this organizational model and this philosophy, and also create a sound business model that keeps this network self-sustaining, self-funding, then we can reach this exponential growth factor, whereby each node of this network becomes a network of its own. And that's the only way to reach these millions of companies and to really initiate the digital transformation. And our goal, of course, in more particular, is to initiate the data-driven digital transformation and to boost artificial intelligence by making data better available and boosting the quality of data. So with this, I conclude my introduction, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Kimmo. Thanks for showing us the whole picture. I think that it was really nice that you put all the pieces together in the same picture for all of us to be aware of all the aspects that we have to consider when facing this digital transformation. It's true that we have a great challenge ahead of us. This 30 million is a huge figure, and well, from you have for it and the different projects, we will have to address this challenge. Thanks a lot for the overview, and then we will move to the first project, which is, sorry for the first speaker. Let me check if I can change my slide, which is Elena Simper. Again, Elena is representing DataPitch, who was the first incubator but under this program, but also in the previous one, Odine and others. And also he's also involved in New Has for Data, so she also has a global picture of the different programs and the different projects. So now, Elena, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Kimmo, for this great overview of the grant vision. I am here speaking about my experiences mainly from DataPitch. which was one of the so-called data incubators or accelerators. For those of you who are not familiar with the concept, these are publicly funded programs that promote specific types of innovation, where on the supply side, you have small and medium businesses, in particular startups and entrepreneurs. On the demand side, in the data pitch case, thank you, Daniel, we had organizations that want to use data alongside AI and data science to solve ongoing challenges. So this was a 3-year program that finished in December 2019. It was made of a consortium of 4 organizations. Back then I was at the University of Southampton. In the consortium were the Open Data Institute, which is an innovation company, non-for-profit in the UK, Beta, an accelerator based in Portugal, and DAOX, a data marketplace, and themselves an SME based in France. The innovation scenario that we have addressed in Data Pitch tackled a number of challenges in building a European, pan-European ecosystem around data and AI. On the supply side, it was access to data, funding, and capabilities to develop novel products and services. On the demand side, it was access to creativity, resources, ideas to solve ongoing challenges. If we go to the next slide, the program itself was in an intermediary position, providing resources, support, matchmaking between the supply and the demand side, and to realize that we basically had to focus on 2 elements. On the one side, the so-called business challenges that were either defined by a specific organization that understood that by sharing data with a startup or with a set of startups, they could explore novel solutions to that challenge, but also so-called sectoral challenges, like in healthcare, in automotive, in finance, in energy, where we were inviting startups to apply to with ideas and their own data holders. So the public funding and the support were there to boost existing collaborations that startups had with another organization in the private or the public sector that was sharing data with them. This mixed model has been key to allow us to scale to 47 companies over 3 years. They have received almost 4.8 million euros, so 100,000 euros each. They've been selected among 229 ideas submitted, so very high quality and a huge demand for this sort of programs. We have engaged with 39 organizations, so-called data holders or providers, which came to us and worked with us, invested their own resources to identify a challenge, to mobilize data internally and get all the approval processes in place for that, mentor the startups during the accelerator alongside the data pitch team, but also after that, invest in that startup and sometimes even acquire them. This has led to more than 100 jobs and 22.4 million euros in additional investment efficiencies and scale. So in next slide, if we go to the next slide, please. In summer 2019, we have commissioned London Economics to assess the impact of the program. And by that, I mean the impact of the innovation framework itself, of the sort of intermediaries in the data ecosystem, but also the impact of the startups that we have supported with funding and other services. Say the remaining of this presentation is about the findings of this impact assessment report that was released in December. So the overall message is that these sort of programs can be extremely successful and they can yield high returns. So London Economics estimates that by 2022, we will have, I think the exact number was a 459% return on investment on the funding. And by funding, I don't mean just the amount of money that went into setting up the program and resourcing the 4 beneficiaries in the consortium, but also the 4.8 million euros that were locked in the startup fund. So it does actually work. Next slide. In addition to this, London Economics issued a number of recommendations for how to make these sort of programs perhaps yield even higher returns. They have established something that we had understood ourselves as well during the 3 years program, that sectoral and data holder challenges are very different innovation instruments. So the former not only addressed broader challenges in sectors that were important for the European economy, but also tended to use more machine learning and a more diverse range of data sources. So that speaks for something that I personally have been highlighting over and over since the Odine times, that it is really important to strike a balance between promoting a specific type of technology product and running innovation programs that are appealing to a range of startups. And these sectoral challenges were not, on the one side, they were much more efficient to run from an innovation management point of view, but also they have attracted companies, solution providers that were much more diverse and creative in terms of data sources and tech. Access to data is as important as the funding for startups and SMEs. And access to data enabled through Data Pitch allowed the startups to attract, on average, 141,000 euros in additional investments compared to startups that did not have access to that data. The other thing that became apparent is that most startups need less data and technology platforms. They need actually access to talent. So one of the services that we have tried to put in place in response to this demand is really to have a network of specialists who are there ready, perhaps not to consult in longer engagement, but to provide specialist advice beyond what we do in current mentoring framework. So I have, in the UK, I have experienced at the moment these sort of tech support networks in the response to the pandemic. So there are tech armies or tech networks of volunteers who help. We could think about this sort of models as well to help startups solve recruitment challenges. Engaging with data holders may yield even greater impact if resourced appropriately. So on the one side, anyone is a data organization. And yesterday I talked about the different types of organizations that engaged with us. But also there are a number of resources that could make these engagements smoother, in particular frameworks to share data, even if it's just for internal purposes at the beginning, as well as specific programs that focus on the data holders rather than the solution providers. So the incubators are all about providing support to entrepreneurs, to innovators on the supply side. On the demand side, there's a lot of work to be done as well in trying to help organizations, especially those that are at the beginning of their digital transformation or those who haven't invested so much in innovation and R&D, to share the data, first internally, then with others. Next slide. For the role of the digital, I think the digital innovation hubs can play a huge role here, because they have those links into countries and regions that a pan-European program that is set up for 3 years, like Data Pitch or any of the other ones, don't necessarily have. So I could imagine frameworks like the ones established in Data Pitch and EDI being localized by the digital innovation hubs, leveraging also regional and national characteristics. They could be vehicles to set up data institutions for data governance. In the same time, I also think that these innovation hubs could be the locus for more research and innovation that is needed into how to allow organizations to share data internally, similar to my point earlier about programs for data holders. Next slide. And some gaps in the ecosystems to conclude, and I can pick this up perhaps in the questions as well. I think we have now quite a range of these sort of incubators, accelerators, and similar types of innovation programs. So we have enough material among ourselves to do some actual research and to compare the different efforts and to understand what worked and what didn't in a more systematic way. And I would also welcome more consistent impact assessment methodologies to facilitate these comparisons. I still think we don't reach far enough, and this is where, again, digital innovation hubs in all parts of Europe could help. Lots of the incubator programs face the same challenges in terms of geographic reach. By EDI, I mean here equality, diversity, and inclusion. So perhaps that's a piece that we need to address together. And then finally, I think it's also worth considering that tension between depth versus breadth. So lots of these programs, including Data Pitch, we focused a lot on lean, on rapid cycles, on scale, on KPIs. Maybe just to add more context to this, it would be worth actually thinking about smaller programs where we do in-depth case studies to understand really how innovation works. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and I'm looking forward to the questions.
Thanks a lot, Elena. Well, it was really nice to see your advices, your experiences, and also your recommendations. Of course, if time allows, we will discuss further during the panel. Thanks a lot. So now we move to the next project, which is EDI, European Data Incubator, will be presented by Diego from Deusto. He is the coordinator, and he will talk about this project. So Diego, now is your turn.
Hi, good morning to everybody. So please, next slide. So in EDI, basically, we try the same as in Data Pitch to bring together data providers and startups, SMEs. Data providers have huge amounts of data. They sometimes lack creativity. They don't have the time. They don't have the talent to actually do something out of the data. Startups, they have a lot of talent, many very good, usually technical skills, but however, they have a main issue. They don't have access to the data, which is by far, from our experience, the biggest barrier that must be overcome by every SME that wants to get engaged into data-driven solutions. So therefore, this is the reason why we set up an incubator consisting of the 3 stages that can be seen in the center of the figure, where data providers provide data and challenges, startups receive mentoring and equity-free funding, and they bring back to the market marketable, sustainable solutions that hopefully sometimes are adopted by data providers. The best probably result of this program is that a small percentage, but still something like 10% of the companies that did address solutions to real world stakeholders, to big corporations, have actually later on hired those companies or even absorbed those companies. So I would say this is, in fact, this feedback loop is the most important feature that this kind of incubators can foster. Next slide, please. So going very fastly through the highlights of how EDI was assembled, as most of the incubators, we had some open calls, a selective process in which we selected the most relevant and best fit companies to address challenges usually provided by data providers. And then this process continued being more selective, following a funnel approach to end up with big data solutions in the market. Next slide, please. So I would say that the most important feature of EDI is that we had right from the beginning in the consortium a wide range of data providers, very committed data providers, 15 out of them. And later on, during the execution of the project, we have managed to run 2 campaigns to recruit further data providers. So after all, we managed to get 24 data providers that have been involved in the 3 rounds of incubation of the project. We are currently ongoing the last round of incubation, which will finish in April 2021, and the program will conclude later on in June 2021. Next slide, please. So, as in many other incubators, in here we are offering all sorts of technical and business support services. We have realized that, in fact, companies are demanding more business development services than actual technical services. This is our experience. They basically and essentially have difficulties, especially the early stage companies, to access to private investment. And this is one of the aspects that we are particularly focusing in the last round of our incubator. Next slide, please. So this program is designed totally, basically we grant the money based on results, and we have a sophisticated KPI mechanism in order to be able to follow the progress of companies. Let's continue. Next slide, please. So quickly, as we finish the first round of the program, we realized that we have to design different strategies in order to promote innovation. At the beginning, we thought that data sets and challenges proposed by data providers would be enough. However, we soon realized that this was constraining a lot the program. We cannot block the creativity and also the entrepreneurship or the capability to reach, to persuade additional data providers to come to the program and to bring with them startups. So this is the reason why we came up with this third modality, the so-called free choice modality, where basically the companies create a challenge, bring the data provider, and later develop a solution for them. So that way, not only the program of the incubator EDI has been fostering the development of interesting data-driven solutions for those data providers involved, but we have also opened the door for companies that were in initial deals with data corporates to come with them to the program, and that way strengthen their relationship and end up producing interesting solutions that are exploitable by both sides. Next slide, please. So please, it is animated. So basically, when this basically illustrates the material that we used when we promoted the open calls. But the most important thing to state about this slide is that innovation can be driven from different perspectives. Once again, it can be driven by the challenges initiated and created by the data providers. It can be driven by the actual data sets that are made public by the data providers. And why not? It should be driven by the applicants themselves. In fact, we realized in the 3 iterations that it is usually quite hard to ensure or to achieve cross-sector solutions. So For that, this is the reason why one of the main aspects of the REACH incubator, where some of the EDI partners have also contributed, how to deal with this difficult challenge of a complex cross-sector challenges. Next slide, please. So, well, this is a slide basically showing what is the impact achieved by some of the companies, in this case, the ones belonging to Cohort 2. So we are happy that most of them achieved good increments of talent in their companies. They incorporated new employees. They grew the revenue significantly. And the most noticeable aspect, perhaps, is that most of these companies, they got extra funding during the execution of the incubator in this constrained period of 8 months. So I think it's quite remarkable that, for instance, in Cohort 2, they managed to recruit 3 additional million euros when they were received something like 1.6 with the commission money that was granted for the project for each of the rounds. So next slide, please. So regarding the main achievements of the program, we managed to launch 3 open calls to execute and finalize them. Very importantly, we also ran 2 open calls to recruit data providers. This is a hard business. You have to arrange many one-to-one interviews with them. You have to persuade them to get on board in the program, explain them the benefits, and convince them, and later continuously manage to their continuous engagement later on in the program. We managed to launch 70 challenges to involve 24 data providers to cover 11 industrial sectors. We are happy to have been incorporated new industrial sectors as the program developed. We managed to produce, or we are managing to produce, up to 52 MVPs, new MVPs for that exercise AI and data exploitation. We are also now the work done in EDI is now present in 3 other incubators, DAPSI, Data Market Services, and REACH. And so far, and we haven't recruited the data, collected the data for the last cohort of companies taking part in the incubator, somehow we have managed to recruit another 6.6 million euros of external investment. Next slide, please. So the main innovations are the strategy of how the incubation process takes place, this funnel incubation process. And also, I would say that obviously the main innovation and achievement of the project is actually that we're managing to produce, to bring to the market 52 new interesting solutions. Let's go to the final slide, where I want to summarize some of the lessons learned by executing the program. So it is very, very important to have the highest possible of attractive companies starting the first stage of the incubation, where you still give them 2 months, aided by the coaches, mentors of the program, to further develop and define their ideas. There is a need to encounter a balance between the industry-driven and industry-inspired challenges. In one case, the initiative is more taken by the data providers, by the big corporations. In the second one, the initiative is more driven by the actual companies. The great reality is that overall, SMEs, they need access to data. So to open them the way to access useful data is by far the highest hurdle they have to overcome. Money also helps, and definitely the networking experience achieved through these incubators can later be used by them during the market exploitation of those solutions. So these kind of incubators, I think they have to have a wide range of data providers that are happy with the program and that they are continuously engaged. And at least from the ADI perspective, we acknowledge that we could have done and we should still do more, trying to seek investment, to help them seek investment after the program finalizes, so that these very good solutions they came up with don't perish a few months later after the end of the incubator. And we identified that a huge challenge is to achieve multi-stakeholder, multi-sectorial data workflows. And this is the main reason why the REACH program that is going to be referred and summarized by Juan Cadavid was devised. So please pass to the next slide. I think I've said enough. Next one, please. I just want to finish with the last slide of thanks, where the logos of all the members of the consortium are shown. Definitely our treasurer, the companies. Please go next. Here are some pictures of the events. And this is definitely my final slide. Thank you for your attention. I'm very grateful to the core consortium partners that are fostering the program, and also to the growing community of data providers that had given sense to this incubator. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open to answer any questions that may be posed later.
Okay, thanks a lot, Diego. It seems that you were able, or have been able to mobilize a huge amount of data. So I have several questions about that, and probably I will ask you during the discussion, because we from EUHA4Data, one of our goals is to create this data space and to contribute to the European Common Data Space. So yes, again, I have many doubts, technical, not so technical. So maybe we can address during the discussion. Thanks. So Diego already mentioned the REACH project, who is also including some of the partners of EDI. Now we have with us Juan Cadavid from SIA, who is also the coordinator of REACH, and he will present the project. So now, Juan, the floor is yours. Here's your presentation.
Sorry, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Juan Cadavid. I'm from CEA in France, coordinator of REACH. So we have just been introduced briefly. So yes, please, next slide. So the story behind REACH Incubator. So REACH is also, as the other data incubators, created under the strategy of the European Commission to boost the data economy across Europe. So we have the same goals as the other data incubators. The particular topic of REACH is the data value chains, the trusted and secure data value chains. Is the fact that we need to put the focus on data sharing across companies. Sometimes when they belong to an already existing value chain, but also to create new value chains based on data. However, we've seen the reluctance of industrials to share data. So that's why we need to provide trust and security mechanisms so they can share that data with transparency. And that's the goal of REACH. So please, next slide. So yes, what is a data value chain is when we have several stakeholders in collaborating that want to create value from sharing that data. Next, please. So what is REACH? So REACH is a second generation big data incubator. As Diego mentioned earlier, we are building on the successes and on the lessons learned by EDI. Diego, actually, he is the technical coordinator of REACH as well. So we are taking the best lessons, the things that work the best in EDI, the things that were to improve in the project. We managed to address them during the proposal phase, and REACH has just gotten started. So we are on our third month, and the incubation rounds are still to begin in April next year. But we already are prepared, and we are very confident that it's going to have at least the same success as EDI, if not better, thanks to several things that we have added, especially the fact that we are going to count with digital innovation hubs. And yes, we will discuss this later in the panel. So that's our core consortium. We have 10 partners, so several of them are competence centers of several digital innovation hubs that belong to the consortium. However, we also have something that it is needed in incubator initiatives, so the access to private investors. So the fact that when companies are already on the way to scale up, to go beyond market launch and to attract investors, we need those corporate investors. So we have a couple of partners that are going to help us in those later phases of incubation. We have technology providers for the topic of trusted and secure data value chains. Next slide, please. And we also had something. We also have data providers already existing as consortium partners. So just like EDI had them, so that's something that contributed greatly to the success of EDI, and we also have that in Reach. So we have 9 data providers across several sectors. And besides, we have, like I just mentioned, 3 digital innovation hubs. So we have DigiHall in the Paris area region, the Data Cycle Hub in Valles in Spain, and ITI Smart Home in northern Greece. Next slide, please. So what is Reach? So it's an incubator. We have we are targeting to host at least 100 data-driven SMEs and startups during 3 rounds of incubation. So each round is going to last for 11 months. We have, so sorry, there is a typo here. It's actually 9 data providers, like I just shown. We have a budget of 3.5 million euros. And in each one of these incubation rounds, we are going to attract all these different types of partners. So we have the data providers that make part of our base consortium. We have the startups, of course, the beneficiaries of the incubation program. We're going to attract private investors. And of course, all of that supported and made possible thanks to the involvement of digital innovation hubs. Not just the 3 that belong to Reach, but also the other ones and the rest in the rest of Europe. Yes, next, please. So how does each incubation round, how does it look like? So just like in EDI, we saw that there is this scheme of phases. So after evaluation and selection, we have the 4 E's. So we have explore, which lasts for 2 months. Then we have the experiment phase, where the actual development of an experiment takes place, which is 4 months. Evolve, where we go for market launch and investment. And then we added a 4th phase beyond those that were made in EDI, which is the expose phase. And this is a phase that was missing, or where we needed to focus on raising private investment. This is something that happened in EDI. It did work very well for several startups. However, we felt that we could do more and bring additional partners that can help us match make startups with potential investors. Next slide, please. So yeah, so why should a startup participate in Reach? So besides the money, the fact that if you go through the 4 phases, you can get up to 120K in equity-free funding. The fact that you have access to large corporations and their data sets. So not just the ones that are going to be available under the, that are already available thanks to the Reach consortium, but we're also going to bring additional data providers, just like EDI did. We have a toolbox, which is a set of technologies that help to build these trusted and secure data value chains using different technologies, such as distributed ledger technologies, so blockchain, anonymization, and minimization of data, and so on. We have access to private investment, like I said, digital and business skills, thanks to the access to experts from digital innovation hubs. The DIH, they also provide infrastructure for the data. So we will have both an on-demand infrastructure that it is readily available for companies to quickly launch experiments, but we also have more powerful infrastructures in case some complex machine learning experiments will take place. And of course, the visibility, the fact that we are 3 DIH, but we are connected to more DIH across Europe, we're going to give a lot of visibility to the incubated companies. Next, please. So the open calls. So like I said before, we are just getting started. Our first open call is going to launch very soon, November 16. It's going to be open for 3 months. We are going to have a couple of webinars. You will see the URL of the project where you can sign up for those webinars. And in the first round, we're going to accept 30 startups in the program. Next slide, please. So our final aim is to demonstrate that silos can be broken, enabling a multi-stakeholder cross-sectorial incubator. So really the goal is to have companies belonging to different sectors to collaborate, to work together, to create value from sharing data, and to overcome the barriers, the reluctance that companies have to share this data. So everything that's related to data ownership, data sovereignty, confidentiality, to really provide all the means that so we can provide trust to those companies that they can share their data without regretting it, without having any overcoming any fears that their data is going to be used in some obscure way that they are not accountable for, something like this. So the idea is to really bring experiments that are going to allow us to companies to share data and overcome these data silos. And that was our presentation. So in the panel, we will discuss more about what's the difference beyond with digital innovation hubs, why they are important for data incubators, and so on. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Juan, for a real nice explanation of the project. I see many connections with EU Hubs for Data, as you can imagine. So maybe we can discuss further during the panel. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let me check. Okay, so now is the turn of data market services, represented here by Maria from Zavala. So Maria, now you can introduce yourself and also present the project.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. This is Maria Anguiano. I'm working as a consultant and project manager at Zavala Innovation Consulting, and I am the DMS Accelerator Coordinator. Today, I will be talking about how DMS Accelerator is helping to evolve the ecosystem of data incubators. So please, next slide. Yes, this accelerator was created back in 2019. It will last until December of 2021. And it was devised by a group of 10 partners with very different backgrounds and with competitive strengths. We have 4 accelerators in the consortium, 2 universities, 1 law firm, and a standardization body, a marketing agency, and innovation consultants. So next slide, please. The goal of this program was to help data-centric SMEs and startups, such as it is the goal of many data incubators and accelerators. And we detected that the companies were facing a lot of barriers in their way to market success, such as, for instance, the lack of data skills and regulations. So we are helping companies to overcome these barriers by providing free support services. Next slide, please. And in the beginning of the program, we also set as key activities to develop within the program. We have an initial phase of scouting, which is similar to other programs such as EDI and the REACH. We have this scouting process where we contact potential companies that could be benefiting from our services. And once they join the program, we have a service of coaching. We try to accompany them along the process so that they can benefit from our services. Of course, the main activity or the core activity of the DMS Accelerator is the provision of services. So we take great care in defining and planning of the calendar of services and what it is that we are going to deliver during the year. We update it according to the company's needs and the feedback that we receive from the partners and the startups. And we also keep track of what we do during the program so that we can know about our services outcomes. We have an important role of communication and community building. because we have this promotion service where we try to increase the social presence of the companies that are involved in the program, and also we promote the success stories of the companies that are involved. And finally, we have an important role in the coordination and in the risk assessment, such as, for instance, to come up with new services due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, please. So this is the DMS methodology. We try to accompany companies at very different stages of development. We have validating companies that are developing MVPs or that are creating one. We have scaling companies that are growing their businesses during the acceleration program. And we also have establishing companies that are a bit more mature, but that are seeking for new markets and new opportunities of investment. So our program is similar in duration to other incubators. We have a 6-month acceleration program that starts in June, and it finalizes with the DMS bootcamp, which is a set of workshops and live training to the companies with the recording of the success stories and the professional videos for the companies. Next slide, please. So the 75% of our program is delivered online. So we provide the remote support to our companies or in the cohort of the DMS. And we provide the services in 5 different categories. We have the fundraising service where we provide training in public and private funding. We have the acceleration services, the standards and legal trainings. We also have data skills courses, and an important role in promotion and marketing to help the companies to boost their success. Next slide, please. So as a summary of the first year, we can say that we have helped the companies done more than 10 international events, that we have provided them with more than 25 online webinars and trainings. We have delivered online guidelines to help them and downloadable content. Also, we have mentoring meetings. Now they are online, but we also have one-to-one meetings. We have mobility programs where we invite the companies to go to our accelerators so that they can benefit from soft landing. And we have 3 data-related courses. And finally, we deliver the bootcamp where we gather with the startups to provide the final trainings and to record their success stories. So next slide, please. As for our success stories, as I said, we try to record the DMS bootcamp, and we are very happy about helping these companies from the first year. Next slide, please. But they are also happy about our program, since they are saying that we provide valuable opportunities and that they would recommend the program because we are making a difference there, helping the companies along the way. So next slide, please. As the final highlights, I would say that we have successfully executed 2 open calls, that we have helped now 100 companies in the second year, and that we will help 50 more in the final year next year. And we try to consider ourselves as an accelerator that is fostering data innovation in Europe. And next slide. We are collaborating with other projects. We are benefiting from the lessons learned of previous incubators, but we also establish collaboration with other programs in our partners' networks. And the final slide, please. So if you are interested in knowing more about the program, you can, of course, ask in the panel session, but you can also reach us through the email and the social media. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Maria, for your presentation. It's amazing what you have achieved in just 1 year, and I guess we are expecting for the next years to show to see your results. Again, the portfolio looks amazing, and well, maybe we can discuss later on about the services you are offering and some connection with the DIA. Thanks a lot. And now the last presentation is from Alexandra from Leibniz University in Hanover. She's presenting the Media Futures project, which is another project funded under the DTICT05 call, Data-Driven Innovation Hubs, but from a very different specific approach, which is the media sector. So welcome, Alexandra, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Daniel. It's a great pleasure to be here and to present Media Futures. Media Futures is an H2020 project which started this September. Thus, it is one of the latest members of this family of European projects of accelerators and incubators. And Media Futures is more a niche incubator and accelerator. That means that we are focusing on enabling and data-driven innovation for the media value chain. So the previous picture was showing a mountain. Actually, this is the goal is to symbolize the challenges of the media sector. As we all know, currently the media sector faces important challenges. For example, it can be stated that there is a rise in terms of populism or in terms of spreading misinformation and disinformation. At the same time, we have many novel and really exciting technologies. For example, deepfakes and filter bubbles. And these technologies can be misused to spread, for example, hate speech or harmful and biased content. In this context, Media Future aims to foster innovation in alignment with the democratic values of fairness, transparency, equality, diversity, inclusivity, and of course, accountability. Thus, moving on to the next slide, we can see the overall vision of the Media Futures Accelerator. That is, we will be establishing a digital innovation hub. At the same time, Media Futures will be offering funding, mentoring, and support for innovative SMEs and startups, as well as artists that aim to even out the aforementioned imbalances of the media sector. Moving on to the next slide, thank you very much. So Media Futures covers a wide spectrum of activities and objectives. Here you can find a very brief overview. For example, in Media Futures, we will be implementing interdisciplinary research and collaboration between SMEs, startups, and artists. Media Futures offers a very unique and customized innovation program for the media sector. This program covers all necessary angles in terms of inclusivity, citizen centricity, digital democracy, participation, and of course, our goal is to enable marketable products and artistic output to be sustainable. At the same time, Media Futures will be launching 3 open calls. Each call will detail current challenges that address real-life problems in the media sector. Our goal will be to enable solutions to these challenges to be funded, supported in terms of mentoring in many disciplines, as well as in technical items, so that they can be sustainable and beyond the project's duration. At the same time, Media Futures will be sharing with the European community toolkits, guidance, and best practices, as our goal is to empower, enable, and support innovation and innovators within the scope of the project, but also beyond its scope. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. So Media Futures manages an innovation fund of 2.5 million euros. And throughout the project's duration, 51 startups and SMEs, as well as 43 artists, will be funded and supported. During the project, 3 open calls will be launched within the duration of 3 years. Each call will have 3 tracks. For example, the first track will be addressed exclusively to SMEs and startups in the media sector. The second track will be addressed to artists. And we have a mixed track in which SMEs and startups and artists can join forces together and apply as a team. The successful applicants will receive a 6-month acceleration program, which is customized for the media sector. And this program is comprised of 3 phases. I will highly encourage all interested stakeholders to keep an eye on Meet the Futures, as our first open call will be launched very soon and before the end of this month. Next slide, please. The Meet the Futures project is coordinated by the Leibniz University of Hanover and myself. I have the great pleasure and honor to have in the consortium one, in my opinion, of the leading innovators in Europe, Professor Elena Simperl, contributing to our project as technical and scientific lead. As you can see, our consortium is a mix of highly experienced European partners, and at the same time, we have new partners that have not yet participated in European projects. Thus, we are driving innovation forward also in this domain by uniting different insights. And of course, each partner is a key expert and leader in their specific domain of expertise, showing that we enable interdisciplinary research and collaboration also at the part of the consortium itself. Next slide, please. So here you can find the handles to find out more about Media Futures. As mentioned, our open call will be launched very soon. And thus we will be launching our campaign, detailing the challenges, the deadlines. We will be also implementing more webinars to guide and support the applicants. Thus I highly encourage all interested stakeholders to follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn, stay in touch with our updates, and at a personal level, please feel free to also reach out to me. I'm happy to provide more information in the meantime. Thank you very much, Daniel. The floor back to you.
Thanks a lot, Alessandra. Sorry for this transition from one slide to the other. I wasn't sure about your your speech. Thanks a lot. So thanks a lot to all the presenters. I think that at least for me, your presentation has been very valuable because honestly, I didn't know so much about all your programs. So now we will start the panel discussion. I ask all of you to switch on your cameras so the audience could see our faces. Sorry, I'm not aware of. I cannot change my screen, so I cannot see the panel. But I guess all of you have your cameras on. So thanks a lot. My first question is let's see, we have time for just one round because we are still running out of time. My first question, of course, is for Elena because Elena, you were the first with Odine and also Data Pitch. You also mentioned several recommendations, and I took some notes. One of them was about a more systematic efforts to compare and to contrast. And now you have the vision of all the incubators, and each of them are quite different, but of course there are some similarities. And also we were involved ourselves in the proposal of UHAS for data at the beginning, and now we know more about the incubators, about the hubs, and maybe you can somehow provide more specific recommendation about how we can address this recommendation from you, more systematic efforts to compare and contrast under the project you have for data, and also to connect with the different incubators. I don't know if you have some thoughts about that.
Yes, so just preliminary thoughts, obviously, because these are my own ideas, and it would have to be a conversation that would span across different programs that are doing complementary things, and I would include here not just the incubators that manage cascading calls and fund startups, entrepreneurs, creatives, but also programs like the data market services that provide services to startups and SMEs. So I think in the first instance, and this might be anecdotal just based on my experience in the projects I'm involved in, it would be good to agree on what we track. I think all programs presented here work somehow with startups and artists. It would be good to get an understanding of who are the recipients of our funding, services, and support? Are they rather startups before launching their MVP? Are there startups that are already at acceleration stage? Are there more established SMEs, like Maria was saying for DMS? More established SMEs need to upskill in data and AI, for example, to stay up to date. So having that understanding of whom we're targeting would already be very useful to compare. The other thing would be what we track, how we measure our own success, and then how we assess our impact. Impact assessment is hugely costly. So we have done it in ODIN and in Data Pitch. We were very keen to not do it within the consortium ourselves, but to commission someone independently to run the exercise for us. So in ODIN, we had IDC. Here in Data Pitch, we had London Economics, and it did help because they had their own methodology, but it is quite a costly exercise. And I would imagine other programs who have similar ideas will work with other suppliers with their own methodologies. And it's nice for me to say that I will have a 459% return on investment by 2022. But this is according to the London Economics methodology for a particular group of startups or SMEs for metrics that I have decided to track. That means something similar, that probably slightly different to what Diego was doing in EDI. So I think everyone would, if we want to advance the field, because I think we all agree we're working very hard and we do achieve successes. If we want to advance the field as a whole, I think it would be nice to be more aligned there.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to be aligned not only about how to measure the success, but also about how we are providing services, data sets, and so on. Actually, one question for the audience is not much about the needs of the startups, but also about the interoperability of solutions and services and so on. So it brings me to the next question to Diego, because I was amazed by the data that you were able to mobilize. Probably you are applying some of this experience and success to also to reach. But I would like to know how the problems that you faced with to leverage the data providers, and also if they are willing to share data. What about the value proposition for those data owners, data providers? Because at the end of the day, one of the objectives of our program is to make progress to this European Common Data Space. So Diego, my question is for you: what problems did you encounter about the data mobilizing, and how do you see data sharing, for instance, also in REACH?
Yeah, well, to start with, only very large corporations have the staff and the skills and in order to open the door to innovation through their data. Some of them, in fact, we have discovered consolidated corporations. They have already installed their own innovation frameworks. But generally, I think we have to do a lot of the pedagogy. We need to basically explain better to data providers what is the value and the potential benefits of sharing data. I think many corporates still, especially small and middle ones, don't realize that the exploitation of data cannot only benefit themselves to themselves, that they should look beyond and realize that actually their own data is a product itself. It is something, it's a core asset that they need to exploit. But I think still there is a lot of, there's not such a big trust. So a lot of persuasion needs to be carried out. And the only thing you can do is also not only to provide them what are the interesting features that an incubator can bring them in exchange for their data, but also you eventually you have to bring them facts. You have to bring them success stories, and I think this is definitely something that will get better and better. No, I think regretfully, still we are missing many opportunities, and many corporates still prefer not to exhibit their data rather than run the risk of releasing somehow some secrets or some, for them, considered very valuable information. So, I mean, we've done our best. You realize that the word of mouth also works pretty well with corporates. When corporates see what other similar corporates in the same sector have achieved through an incubator, and particularly through the enterprises that took part in that incubator, you get them on board. For us, something that worked very well, and I finish with this, was the fact that in the free choice modality of participation that we devised, we brought to the consortium SMEs with their own data providers, and those data providers realized about the interest for them to carry on in the incubator. So for the following rounds of the incubator, they became fully fledged data providers where their challenges and data set were open to all SMEs, not only to the ones that initially brought them to the program.
Okay, thanks. So I would summarize your comments that the three aspects are awareness, trust, and value, basically, for small companies and small actors. So it's our obligation, our objective, how to get that of all of us, of all our projects. So my next question is to Juan. Juan, I have to ask this question. Sorry, but you are in your project have three DIH. Sorry, so you are very much relying on DIH. In U-Has4Data, we are also building this network of DIH to about data-driven innovation. So how are you planning to? And also it's a question for us, actually, not only for Rich, but and also you are planning to incorporate, I guess I took note, 5 more DIH in different sectors. So again, how are you planning to connect with other networks of DIH, how to leverage other federation, and to probably to incorporate other services to your project?
Yes. Yeah, so yeah, first I want to begin saying that digital innovation hubs are something that are indeed very important for the success of these incubation projects. And in general, I think for all the projects that are using the cascade funding mechanism, because in several other projects in the past in which that have been coordinated by CA, we always have this problem of sourcing, of reaching out for more submissions, for more participation in our open call projects. And I think digital innovation hubs are the key to succeeding with this, especially because in several of these previous projects, it was competence centers, research institutions that were only participating and trying to get participants. But now, thanks to the fact that we have digital innovation hubs, so digital innovation hubs are not just research institutions, but they are also bringing together industrial clusters and so on. We are able to mobilize larger networks to reach larger audiences and bring more participants into the programs. So yes, you mentioned, Daniel, that we only have 3 digital innovation hubs in reach. How are we going to expand into that? And well, first I'd like to take a step back into the vision of the Commission. So you see that in the 2019 call for big data digital innovation hubs. So there was the Commission's strategy was first to create a network of DIH, and then to launch the next generation of data incubators supported by digital innovation hubs. So there is within this strategy, well, we have EU hubs for data. So I think we've all seen the presentation of the project in other sessions of the event. And the fact that you're building there a federation of database digital innovation hubs that are consolidating a set of services and which have a very nice geographical distribution. We are going to rely on this type of networks. So EU hubs for data, let's say it's a new one. but also DIH by nature, by definition, they are already connected to other DIH. So let us remember that Digital Innovation Hub, it's regional by nature. The Commission's vision is that there should be a Digital Innovation Hub per European region. So that's 281 regions. And the idea is that at least each region should have at least one. And this is going to be made possible thanks to the new Digital Europe program. So the fact that these digital innovation hubs will exist, well, in many cases they already exist, that they have been operated for several years, new ones are being created. These digital innovation hubs, by nature, they are interconnected. They belong to several networks. So I mentioned the new EU hubs for data, but there are previous networks that already exist. We have the, for instance, in the topic of AI, so the AI DIH network, and we see that several DIH that belong to EU hubs for data, they also belong to that network. And there are some other networks in specific sectors. So in healthcare, in robotics, and agriculture, manufacturing, etc. And we have to rely on these networks. So DIH have to rely on these networks to find other DIH to bring them into the program. How do we bring them? So first, it's the classical dissemination activities that we perform in our projects. So we need to attract participants. And the idea is that when we participate in these networks, we disseminate our activities. We try to bring more participants, but we also need to try to help each other. So for instance, the fact that, of course, our incubators have do not have unlimited resources. Sometimes we cannot welcome everyone, or maybe in some cases when we have some niche incubators and there are applying startups that we cannot welcome into our programs, we can redirect them to other incubation programs hosted by other DIH. So I think we strongly need to rely on DIH networks, the existing ones and the new ones to appear.
Okay, thanks a lot, Juan. I think that we will have the opportunity to discuss in future occasions, but again, I see multiple connection and we have still to work together. Thanks a lot. So my next question is for Maria, because I saw that you in data market service in this accelerator program, you follow well a more, let's say, integral approach and accompanying companies from the beginning through different services. So my question is here is double. On the one hand, for sure you saw the benefits of this journey with the companies, and I saw your portfolio of services, which is also amazing. So my question is, are you planning or have you thought about the sustainability of this portfolio of services once the project is done? Because I found it very useful for this journey. On this way, maybe also you can rely on different projects that we are presenting here today. So just it was my thought, and I would like to discuss this is with you. This journey composed of different services, the portfolio, and how we can also maintain this portfolio after the project.
Yes, so regarding the first question, we think it is very important to accompany the companies. We realized that during the first year of the program. So to engage with the companies, it was good to have a follow-up with them. So we assigned the role of the coaches so that they can give them advice in several areas, and when they are in need of a service, they can just talk to their coach, and we thought it was a good idea besides the mentoring that we do. And regarding the sustainability of the program, we are going to start working on that plan at the end of this year, but we have to first discuss with the partners to be involved in this plan, and together we will establish a sustainability plan, but of course taking into account the lessons learned and the sustainability plans from previous incubators that are more experienced than the DMS accelerator.
Thank you, Maria. Definitely, maybe we can also support you in this plan. So maybe we can again work together. So I have a question for Alessandra here about the Media Futures project. I saw that you have also included in your project, I remember 3DIH, right? Or 2 or 3DIH, but Eureka also yourself, LS3 from Leipzig. Are you providing specific services for the media sector about data for this specific sector? Because you saw today, and also Kimo mentioned, and also other speakers, that the sector-oriented tools and data are also very important. So my question is here: how are you addressing these specificities of the media sectors instead of data, data sets, data-driven services, and so on? Because again, I saw your DIH. These are I know them. Again, your CAT and also your DIH. But again, what are the specificities that you are following for this media sector?
Yes, thank you, Daniel. Indeed, we have many digital innovation hubs in our consortium. The L3S Research Center of the Leibniz University of Hanover is also an innovation hub. We have also BDVA iSpaces. Besides that, we have contacts and have established collaboration with a vast range of other digital innovation hubs across Europe. And it is within the framework of the project that we will be reaching out to them and engage them actively for the project, for example, in terms of resources or technology transfer, sharing lessons learned, and also expanding opportunities at citizen level within each specific region of the project. So I will be sharing more on that, hopefully in the next EBDVF meetings and hopefully in person. If I may add a comment, Daniel, I think that Media Futures has a unique differentiating point from the other incubators mentioned in this panel. In terms of arts and artists, I would really like at the personal level to advocate and highlight the importance of arts and artistic expression. I think that as a key indicator for civilization and the barometer for humanity, I think that arts have a very significant role in terms of creativity. We all know how creativity is very important for research and for business to cross-pollinate, for example, ideas between different sectors and to gain different perspectives. And that fosters a lot creativity from many standpoints. And I believe that by involving artists in this co-creation process, we can really enable sustainable products. For example, we have design thinking, which is a proven methodology to involve actively creativity and design and arts in co-shaping sustainable and of course marketable products. Artists face a lot of challenges nowadays for the sake of the public health and its protection. We know that, for example, theaters are closing in some countries, or museums and expositions are forced to limit their attendance, and that is of course for the benefit of the public health. Thus, if there are artists in the audience, I will highly encourage them to contact me or to follow Media Futures and apply, because we have the resources to support them and to open new ways and a bright new future for them. So I hope I didn't deviate too much. My apologies, Daniel, for that. I really wanted to share that with the community online.
Of course, I totally agree with you. This is a different perspective of this project, and also in the midterm, I would like to also discuss with you these specificities of this sector together with others, for sure. So we are almost running out of time, and sorry, I saw some questions in the audience. Again, we will answer them offline because we are planning to prepare a post-event report of this session. I would like to keep the discussion for sure, because I think many synergies here and also ways to explore and paths to follow, but we have to end here. I would like for each of you just to say a few words, just a final remark, just 10, 15, 20 seconds, it's up to you. And with that, we will end the session. Okay. So Elena, we will follow the initial order. Elena, you are the first. Just the final remarks about the session and the activities here.
Well, I just wanted to thank you first for bringing us all together. I had some idea about what is going on, but now I see one more time just how rich this ecosystem is. and I'm looking forward to work with you and exchange ideas and collaborate in many ways. And if I just one final word, I'd like to totally support what Alexandra was saying earlier about the need to go even further. We still don't have enough reach. We still don't reach over the digital divide. Some countries are still underrepresented. Some groups are still underrepresented. The methodologies that we have are too quantified. And you see how badly quantified methods like polls in elections can go. So I think we still have lots of challenges ahead of us, but I'm confident after the session, actually more than 90 minutes ago, that we have a chance to meet some of these challenges.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. You're completely right. Thanks a lot, Elena. Diego, your final words?
Well, thank you very much for the organization. It's been very nice to attend to this session where we always keep learning. And I think our mission should be to continue nurturing data value chains to enhance the get together of data providers and solution providers, because from that cooperation a lot can be gained. So we have to keep providing success stories to truly convince people that they should share data by default.
Yeah, you're like convince people, convince SMEs is one of the key aspects here. Thanks a lot, Diego. Juan, your final remarks?
So I'm also very glad to have participated in this session for a project like REACH that's only getting started, to see all the lessons learned from previous incubators, the challenges, the things that still remain a challenge that we need to be solved. It is great to have seen all that, and we definitely need to discuss further on how we're going to work together. I think besides the challenges, the very technical or business challenges that each one of our incubators have, I also want to join Elena and Alexandra saying that we have this mission in Europe of not just closing the digital divide, but really transforming the economy of Europe into a data economy. And this cannot happen only in the countries that always benefit from this kind of initiatives, but there are still, like we've seen in several incubators, that there are some countries that are very underrepresented, and that we need to rely again on the digital innovation hubs to go to those regions where still there is no representation, where participants are still not applying into our programs. And I think in this way we can contribute to close the digital divide, the digital gap between our regions in Europe, and then, well, to have a better, improve our perspectives for a better future in general.
Definitely. Thanks a lot. Maria, do you want to say some last wrap-up remarks?
Yes, thank you for the session, Daniel, and for organizing this meetup with the other incubators. I think that we are all together here to boost companies and the success of the companies and the data market, and that there are still pending issues to work on, such as the sustainability of these incubators and the future collaborations. But it was very good to hear about other experiences, and I think that it was beneficial, at least from Data Market Services Accelerator side. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Maria, for being here. And finally, Alessandra, the artist view.
Yes, thank you very much, Daniel, for the excellent session. I found the discussion very fruitful and insightful, and we're looking forward to the next sessions where we can also report our Media Futures results. From a Media Futures standpoint, I would say, let's reshape the media value chain together, and let's reinforce trust in the media together by aligning with the values of transparency, inclusivity, and all our European values. So many thanks for the great session again.
Thanks a lot. For me, it was quite short because still many things pending to discuss, but it was very interesting. Thanks a lot, all of you, for your effort, your participation, your time, and thanks a lot also for the audience for attending. Again, we will try to answer all the questions offline in a report after the event. And well, I encourage all of you to keep attending the rest of the sessions. Have a nice day. Bye-bye from Valencia.
Bye-bye from London.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Stay
Thank you
healthy
very
and
much.
safe.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye from the Basque Country. Bye.